I'm going to show you how to solve simple factorable quadratics. Now there's a whole lot of whys that we're not going to include in this video. I'm just going to very quickly simply show you how to do it. So a simple factorable quadratic is a quadratic equation of this form. Notice how there's an unseen 1, meaning there's nothing there, just simply x squared plus 7x plus 12 is equal to 0. First thing I'm going to do is factor this. I'll draw two brackets, and I'm going to put an x at the beginning of each of them. I'm then going to find two numbers. The criteria for these two numbers is this. They must multiply to give me 12 and add to give you 7. Think of all the numbers that multiply together to give you 12. You could have 12 times 1, or 6 times 2, or 4 times 3, or going the other way, 3 times 4, 2 times 6, 1 times 12. These are all the positive factors of 12. If I add these together, 12 plus 1 is 13, 6 plus 2 is 8, 4 plus 3 is 7. Now look here. I want two numbers that multiply to give me 12 and add to give me 7. So from my list, it's 4 and 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 plus 3 is 7. So those two numbers go here and here. I'm almost done. I now have two things that are being multiplied together, and when I multiply them together, I get 0. That tells me that one of them must be 0. You see, if I had two unknown numbers, let's say a and b, and a times b was equal to 0, I would know that either a is 0 or b is 0. That's the only way that the product of these two could be 0. I'm going to apply that logic here. So remember, I started with x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. And I found two numbers, 3 and 4, who multiply to give me 12 and add to give me 7. I'm now going to write or to distinguish that I'm splitting this one equation into two separate equations. One of them, the factor on the left is equal to 0, or the factor on the right is equal to 0. One of those is 0. Subtract 3 from both sides of this equation, or subtract 4 from both sides of that equation. I now have my two answers. X equals negative 3 and x equals negative 4. And that's it. These are the two solutions to this equation here. To prove that that answer is right, all we have to do is plug it in. Let's try and take x squared plus 7x plus 12 and see if it's equal to 0 when x is equal to negative 3. So we'll sub in that x equals negative 3. So we get negative 3 squared plus 7 times negative 3 plus 12. Negative 3 squared is 9. I've got 9. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. And I've got plus 12. 12 plus 9 is 21. Minus 21 is 0. Since negative 3 makes this whole thing 0, negative 3 is one of my valid answers. You can test negative 4 for yourself. I'm going to do a couple more examples of solving simple factorable quadratics. I'll make this number negative, and then I'll do one where that number is negative, or maybe that's 0. I'm going to do these a little bit quicker, so with less explaining as I go. So let's say I have a question such as x squared minus, let's say minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. I'm now going to look at all my factors of 6. My factors of 6 are 6 and 1, 3 times 2. And notice 6 plus 1 is 7, and 3 plus 2 is 5, and that's a negative 5. So I could use negative 3 times negative 2. And remember, a negative times a negative gives us a positive, so this is going to work. Negative 3 times negative 2 is also positive 6. So I'm going to write down that this is x minus 3 times x minus 2, and that's equal to 0. So like I did before, always write it out this way, keeps things organized. X minus 3 is 0, x minus 2 is 0. So if we add 3 to both sides to solve this, x is 3, and over here, x is 2. So we can do the same thing when we have a negative there. I'll show you one where this number is a negative. So let's say I have a negative 10 there. So this could be x squared, and then let's say we could have a 5 and a negative 2. So that's going to be plus 3x minus 10 is equal to 0. So to factor this, two numbers that multiply to negative 10 and add to positive 3 would be positive 5 and negative 2. Positive 5 times negative 2 will give me negative 10. And positive 5 minus 2 is 3. So I've got x plus 5 times x minus 2 is equal to 0. This will split. X plus 5 is 0, x minus 2 is 0. So x is negative 5, or x is positive 2. And you can check these numbers by putting these numbers into here, just like I showed you with the first question that we did. Okay, a quick last one here. What do we do if either of these numbers is 0? Well, this technique will still work, but it becomes unnecessary. So let's say I have x squared plus 0x plus, well, let's make this answerable, minus 16 is equal to 0. So if I had a 0 here, I just simply erase it. So we have x squared minus 16 is equal to 0. Add 16 to both sides, so x squared is 16, and that makes x equal to, it's tempting to say the square root of 16, which is 4, but it's actually plus or minus, because remember, negative 4 squared is also 16. So this is plus or minus 4, which is our two answers like we're used to having. Either x is 4 or x is negative 4. So that's what we do if we have a 0 in the middle. And if you have a 0 on the very end, so let's say you've got x squared plus 7x plus 0 is equal to 0. Well, that 0 is just gone. You can erase it. So we have x squared plus 7x equals 0. Now we pull out x as our common factor. So I have x times x plus 7 is equal to 0. So what I did here, well, it's easier to understand it backwards. Multiply x by each of those, and you get this line, so this line must be right. So what this means is either x is 0 or x plus 7 is 0. So that makes x equal to negative 7. Okay, so I've shown you how to solve this. I'm now going to show you why this factoring trick works, and I'm going to show you that on our original question. Glad you agree, Sam?
Yeah.
All right, so remember the original question. I've got x squared plus 7x plus 12, and I said that's equal to x plus 3 times x plus 4. And I'm going to show you why that's true. If I take x plus 3 and I multiply it by x plus 4, I must multiply each term in the first bracket by each term in the second bracket. So that gives me x times x, which is x squared, plus 3x plus 4x plus 12. 3x plus 4x is 7x, so this is x squared plus 7x plus 12. And all the ones I factored, you could expand out this way. And I'm going to cut it, keep this down to 10 minutes.
Wait.
Quick, Sam.
Subscribe.